Hey everyone, welcome back. So, today's explainer is, well, it's a little different. We're not just going to sit here looking at dry data or isolated history. Nope. Instead, we're embarking on a pretty dynamic cultural and linguistic journey. So grab your passports, because today we're exploring the absolutely vast, incredibly diverse, and deeply fascinating Francophone world, really looking at how language fundamentally shapes our global connections. Here's a quick look at our itinerary. We're going to kick things off with Le Monde de la Francophonie, then take an escapade au Sénégal. After that, we'll hit La Cuisine et la Culture, followed by La Mode et l'Identité, and finally, we'll unpack Les Outils de la Langue. Let's get into it. Okay, Section 1, Le Monde de la Francophonie. You know, when we talk about the French language, it's super easy to just picture Europe, right? But looking at the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, it has a massive global footprint. We're talking about 70 different states and governments spanning multiple continents, all united by a common language. And what's really wild is the human scale behind that footprint. Out of a total population of 870 million people living in those regions, an incredible 220 million are active French speakers. I mean, that is a massive global community sharing ideas, commerce, art, and culture every single day. To put that into even sharper perspective, French is currently the 6th most used language on the entire planet. That single digit right there, that sets the stakes for this whole explainer. It shows us exactly why understanding this linguistic toolkit matters so much. It's literally a global key. But where does this whole concept actually come from? Well, the term Francophonie was coined back in the late 19th century by a French geographer named Onésime Reclus. He created it to designate all the countries and regions where French is the maternal, official, administrative, or educational language. And it's crucial to grasp that this isn't just some boring dictionary category. Reclus's 19th century coin carries immense geopolitical and cultural weight, celebrating both unity and just incredible diversity. This juxtaposition brilliantly illustrates that exact diversity. On one side, we've got a bright blue street sign reading Rue de la Caserne, sitting in the warm climate of Pondicherry, India. On the other, the towering historic architecture of a grand chateau in Quebec, Canada. Two vastly different climates, totally different architectures and histories, yet both are deeply woven into the exact same Francophone tapestry. How cool is that? All right, moving on to Section 2, Escapade au Sénégal. These breathtaking, towering minarets belong to the Great Mosque of Touba, resting peacefully beneath a striking, clear blue Senegalese sky. Appreciating this kind of architecture really helps anchor our understanding of the Francophone world in real, physical places, you know? It grounds us before we look at how travelers actually interact with them. Let's read from a traveler's first-hand account. This is a little excerpt from a postcard written by two travelers, Nargis and Ali. They write, Nous sommes allés à la mosquée à Touba, et nous avons aussi visité le marché à Kaolack. Nous partons pour le Canada la semaine prochaine. Meaning they went to the mosque in Touba, visited the market in Kaolack, and are leaving for Canada next week. I absolutely love this quote because it emphasizes how seamlessly a Francophone traveler can hop from exploring Senegalese markets straight to planning a trip across the Atlantic to Canada, carrying the exact same language with them the entire way. Which brings us to Section 3. La cuisine et la culture. Okay, who's getting hungry? This colorful, flavorful bowl of couscous made of durum wheat semolina is a famous North African staple. But get this, here's an incredible cultural fact for you. In 2014, this specific North African dish was actually ranked in first position as the absolute favorite dish of the French. No way, right? It's just perfect, delicious proof of how deeply cultures blend and influence one another within the Francophone world. Plus, food gives us a fantastic excuse to look at practical language. Let's walk through these simple recipe steps from our source text. First, wash and cut the vegetables. Second, heat olive oil in a pan. Third, add the vegetables and tomato paste. And finally, wait 20 minutes, then add chickpeas and spices. By looking at a recipe, we're using sensory storytelling to bring the grammar of instructional verbs to life. You're not just memorizing verbs, you're literally learning how to create a meal. All right, let's pivot to Section 4, La mode et l'identité. So our source text provides this really fascinating breakdown on clothing as a mark of distinction. It explains how clothes completely evolve in function. Like at birth, clothing is basic. It just protects us against the cold and heat. But very quickly, it becomes a social identifier. It differentiates gender through ingrained color norms. As we grow, it signals wealth or status via brand names. And in school, it drives a powerful desire to conform, because we all want what our peers have, right? The crucial takeaway here is that clothes go from basic protection to an absolute obsession of daily life that really defines our social identity. And this brilliantly illustrates why we need Section 5, les outils de la langue. Now, don't look at this grammar as some dry test. Instead, think of it as a table of essential conversational tools we actually need to compare our global travels. When we want to compare regions or items, we use the comparative structure, like saying, les parfums français sont plus chers que les parfums indiens. French perfumes are more expensive than Indian perfumes. And when we want to highlight extremes, we rely on the superlative. Entre Delhi et Paris, c'est Paris qui est la ville la plus chère. Between Delhi and Paris, Paris is the most expensive city. These structures let us weigh and measure the vibrant world we're exploring. Next up, the dans quel but, or for what purpose exercise, gives us the precise mechanics for explaining our motivations. On the left side, if you question the reason and ask, pourquoi je bois du lait? Why am I drinking milk? You answer on the right using pour plus an action. Pour grandir, to grow, or pour rester en forme, to stay in shape. It's such a simple, elegant way to explain your actions in French. Now, let's bend reality a little bit. By using the conditional tense, we aren't just reporting facts, we're actually allowed to dream up entirely new worlds. I love these imaginative lines shared from Jean-Luc Moreau's poem, Si la sardine avait des ailes, si le pape habitait Paris, si la mer Noire était la Manche. The conditional tense gives us the creative freedom to ask what if and totally bend the rules of the universe. So let's frame this final auto-evaluation as a sort of checklist for our passport. Based on what we've covered today, can you express wishes and opinions? Ready. Pose questions on fashion? Ready. Express conditions and hypotheses? Ready. And can you describe a Francophone country? Ready. We've successfully confirmed that you now have the skills to engage with everything from Senegalese travels to French fashion. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. Knowing that language actively shapes how we connect, trade, and build culture right across continents, I want to leave you with this provocative question. Which part of the Francophone world will you choose to describe next? Take these new cultural and linguistic tools out into the real world. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next explainer.